Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Fantasy Feed Zone. We are but hours away from the start of the Vuelta a España for 2025. So we're going to dive in and do some rider selections. The teams are finally in. For those of you that might have been checking to see what the start lists were even a couple of days ago, teams had not fully been selected. I don't know what people were doing. Maybe they were, touring around the Amalfi, having a great time, sipping coffee and picking lemons or something like that. Who knows? Or having a siesta. Do like that about Spanish culture. But the teams are in. So we actually know everyone that's going to be racing the Vuelta a España now. So we can dig in, have a look at how to use the Fantasy by Tissot platform and start to make some rider selections. Today we'll also look at essentially some of the stage layouts to sort of define why I might be making certain selections, what to get locked in early on, and we can go from there. Okay, we are now inside the Fantasy by Tissot platform. And as you can see, that as we've popped up on the screen here, this is essentially your My Team dashboard. Across the top here, you have your My Team rankings, which won't become necessary to look at until further into the Vuelta. And then you've also got leagues where you can join different leagues. You can see the Fantasy Feed Zone League there, which I will make sure to send you all the link to and put that in the show description. Jonas Vingegaard seems the natural pick to be the linchpin of your team. Right, the guy that is most likely going to end up in the red jersey overall. He's also worth a lot of stars. As we talked through in the previous episode, you've only got 120 to go around, so you need to be fairly frugal with how you choose to use those. Ideally, not spend all of them up front, given you've only got the 8 transfers in terms of the 400 credits. So that said, until the point that the first stage actually starts, you can play around with this as much as you want. So we're going to go ahead and add Jonas into the team. Now, a handy little piece you've got here is the stage preview. The stage preview for stage 1, it looks like it's going to be a sprinter stage, right? We know Philipsen is in the Vuelta after crashing out of the Tour. Hopefully he is recovered enough to be contesting this stage. It seems like he is. He could be a sprint pick for this stage. I think there is a very good chance, though, at 22 stars and with some of the climbs coming, while he would win you stage 1, you might be looking to have to transfer him out at a later stage. So I might have to eat my words there. Let's see. But, I mean, he's a great sprinter. That said, I won't be picking him for my team. Part of that is knowing that straight into stage 2, we got that category 2 uphill finish. So I know Mads Pedersen in a lot of his pre-race interviews has been essentially talking about how his preparation has maintained a lot of the same climbs in terms of his training. So I feel a bit more confident with Mads in some of those lumpier stages as well as some of the climbs to pick him as a sprinter. But he's also 23 points. But anyway, we're going to get him in and have a quick look at then what that looks like in terms of some of the other riders on the team. Obviously, you need a complete team to be able to contest the stage, so you do have to move through and select that across the board. You kind of do need to score points early. That is just a fundamental aspect of this, is that you could stack a great team that might be really good long-term across the Vuelta, but if you're not winning stages early, you're just not going to score enough points. You're going to get behind compared to your other competitors. And in that sense, it's just not worth it. The next part I'm going to look at is who else have we got in the sprint category that might be worth adding into the team. You can do that on the left-hand side here by pulling up the filter category and going by sprinter. That will then bring you up a full list of who you can select. I do not think this is a super solid sprint group. Maybe that has something to do with a bit of the stage selection and parkour of this year's Vuelta. Massive hat tip, though, to Ilya Viviani, who got himself a lotto contract just like good on you, dude, for being out there at your age and still contesting. I think you had a stage win earlier this year in a bunch sprint. So, yeah, massive round of applause. Not going to pick you, but keep it up. And hey, who knows? I mean, the first 4 stages this year are in Italy for some reason. So maybe Ilya's just going to, hometown hero it and blast his way to a victory. But not going to be on my list. I think there's a chance. Look, could we see Tom Stewart up there in the mix? Yes, but I think if I was adding him to the team, I would then be wanting to think about, once those lumpier stages come along, what are we doing to essentially swap him out? So we might come back to him. I did want to click through just to show you the full list of sprinters here. I am in the general viewpoint that you want to have your guy that you think is going to win the sprint stage and maybe 1 or 2 backups. I think there's also a strategy to play out here, which is if you know a team has a great lead-out train and one of the last guys in that lead-out train is going to be in front of the guy that you think is going to win, you can always pick him up, because if the lead-out train stays pretty much together until the last 200, 300, 400 meters, there's every chance that lead-out guy is going to finish in the top 10 as well, which is going to get you some cheeky points on the side that they might not be contesting the sprint, but they're still up there pretty high. If we think GC, as I say, I think Vingegaard's the guy. I think that's a pretty safe bet, not blowing anyone's socks off there with that suggestion. But there are a few guys that are worth consideration, especially in the young rider category, that will be either in the mix on the Climbers jersey or the GC consideration. One Ayuso is one for UAE. I mean, there's a real question there around who the leader of UAE is. Is it Almeida? Is it Ayuso? I mean, Almeida's been on great form. Again, didn't finish the tour, crashed out. Is this his race to really have a crack at? Or do you see some dissension among the ranks between Ayuso and Almeida? Who knows? But Ayuso does give you, for the same point total, that young rider jersey consideration. The other one also in that category is Antonio Tiberi. So if you're thinking about other leaders, Tiberi is also in the mix for the young rider classification. So you're getting a sort of 2-for-1 there with Ayuso and Tiberi. I think, look, I'd love to think that Egan Bernal can get back to his form of yesteryear. Let's see sort of where he's at. He seems to have had some early season form and improvement, but and hopefully he's planning on peaking for the Vuelta, but I think time will tell there to see if he's at the level. Giulio Ciccone, is he going to be healthy for the entire race? Again, I think that's a question. Maybe you go for Giulio just for the flash that he shows when he rides, but some considerations there in terms of the leaders. All right, middle order. We're thinking about stages really 3 to 4, because after stages 1 and 2, we can reassess. Looking at stages 3 and 4, I'd be expecting to make 1 or 2 transfers between now and stage 5, essentially, for the start of the Vuelta. Bit of a workhorse in Jonas Ricard to plug in down the bottom of the order. We search him as an all-rounder. I'm just going to plug him in here. I'm actually also going to pick up Cal O'Brien. I think there is a very good chance, depending on the role that he is going to play for the team, that in some of the quicker finishes, he could actually be up there and really in with a chance. Okay, next up, I am actually going to pick up Bruno Amire, who was on great form in the tour. Spent a lot of time in the breakaways. Realistically, if he's maintained his form from the tour, I think could be a real chance on stage 3 or 4. And I wouldn't mind carrying Amire all the way through the tour. So I think at 14 stars, that's a good pickup. We're going to stick him in the team. Someone I think who could add value purely in that scoring category of kilometers spent in the breakaway. I don't necessarily think Victor Campenaerts is going to be in a position where he will win a stage, although he could. But I do like him as someone who could chalk up quite a few kilometers in the breakaway and find himself in a position where he's scoring points for my team, having been off the front of the breakaway. So I'm going to do a quick flip here in order to get my order right on stars and pop Campanats in there, then get Bruno. We don't, or we do when he rides really well. There's a little thing you can do, which is tick within my budget. That'll basically just take up and take out anyone who is essentially above your rider budget. I think it is absolute highway robbery that Valentin Parepant is up there for 16 stars. I'm pretty certain, and I was pretty happy about it, he was 9 stars in the Tour de France, and I did pick him up, although I didn't road captain him before the stage that he won, the high mountain top stage finish that he won, throwing his arms and legs everywhere. But that's highway robbery. So sorry, Valentin. I actually think you're a great climber, but that's a lot of stars for what it's worth. That said, for old time's sake, let's say we popped in Cockguard. All right, we now have a complete team. We have to consider now, if this is my makeup of my team, I've got a single leader. I've got Mads Pedersen, who likely I'd want to maintain for the entirety of the Vuelta, with an eye that he's going to win a few stages and possibly end up with a sprinter's jersey. I've got Stuart and I've got Brian Cocker, both for 16 stars as early picks for this flat stage, essentially just to get myself off to a good point start. I'm really thinking about, all right, I'm going to keep these 2 guys for stage 1. And then I'm thinking about who to pull in for those 2 in order to be in a good position for essentially stage 2 with the uphill finish through to stages 3 and 4 before the team time trial. Okay, the last piece that we will do is set our road captain. So essentially what we're looking to do there is assign the stage winner bonus right here. What that'll do is if Mads is to win this stage, he'll get double points. So you're essentially picking who you think your stage winner is going to be and assigning double points to them. You do that each stage. So make sure you change your road captain, because I have seen a lot of people not do that, and they will lose out on their points because they've got a sprinter for a high mountain stage, for example. So make sure you're on top of that. Some value picks. Those whose star total doesn't necessarily match their upside. There are a few that I will call out that might be worth a look. Not at this point in the Vuelta, but perhaps a little later on. Marco Frigo is someone, as a climber, who I think could also be a real value rider, both in the young jersey category, but for KOM points as well. So 13 stars, I would flag him as someone to keep an eye out for. The other one is Finn Fisher Black. Again, similar level, 13 stars. Also, I think a good chance to be top 5 in the young rider classification. So worth keeping an eye out for him. On the flip side, a couple of red flaggers. There are a few that I'm going to call out here. I think Tom Pidcock, great rider, but at 21 stars, I don't really see him being up there in the GC classification. So he might contest some stages. He may drop some time and try go for some stage wins. But I think at 21 stars, he's just purely not in the same category as some of these other guys. So I think Almeida and Ayuso at 20 are a much better value. Ben O'Connor rode well in the Tour, won himself a stage. Again, I don't see him contending for a GC place here. I think he'll ride really well, but at 20 stars, I don't think that is really worth it. If you're going to go for an all-rounder that you think has time trial upside, I would be looking at Filippo Ganna for a chance to be in the mix, maybe for the sprint jersey, or overall just being a little bit more active than Stefan Kung. So there are a few kind of red flags in the higher star categories that I would call out maybe to avoid. I mentioned in the last podcast the way to do this on the Excel spreadsheet or Google Sheet that I've brought together. So essentially, that is like this. So a full breakdown of each of the stages where you can drop in your transfer in stars as well as your transfer out stars. That'll automatically calculate for you your bank star total. I will pop a link in for this one into the video description. We will do a bit more of a deeper dive on this once I've got this filled out for the rest of the Vuelta. We've looked at essentially the stage breakdown on why we're making the justifications we are. The other option you've got here is also coming across the Pro Cycling Stats, which will give you a nice breakdown of each of the stage profiles as well. A bit of a quicker option than having to go through the Vuelta website. And last but not least is our good friends over at Rouleur, whose stage previews are invaluable as a fantasy contender and player. They will give you their prediction on who they think will win the stage. They think Philipsen's in. I think that's a great pick. They've got Mads in the second position on who they think could be a chance to win this stage. Again, the question really is, do you want to put Philipsen in to then essentially be getting rid of him very quickly thereafter? Maybe you do. So you can expect to see the next episode ahead of Stage 5 for the team time trial, where we'll cover some of the changes that have been made in Stages 2, 3, and 4 in preparation as well for Stage 5. Until then, have a siesta if you're feeling a bit tired, especially if you're in Australia and you're thinking the race isn't until tonight and I need to stay up and watch it as part of the Couch Peloton. Otherwise, we'll see you next time on Fantasy Feed Zone. Thanks for following along and playing. Make sure you join the league, like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you for the next episode.